And welcome back to my, part 4 of What If Civilization Started Over. I'm just gonna get right back into this. With this yellow, with a new nation actually forming. Over here in this, around, modern day China, a new nation would start to formalize itself. I'm gonna go with like this kind of yellowish color. It formalized itself pretty fast using the pretty decent fertile lands of China to establish a pretty strong opening empire. Now, our Italian Roman like country is going to build a new fort. As it will now see this gray Germanic country break apart further as in the west, a new nation would break this the Frankish people near the border plus a new, almost eastern empire would formalize itself. I'm going to change that color because it's a little too close to the ocean. It would start to almost formalize itself over here formalizing a new, almost formalizing a weird border almost country between the Italians and the, Germanic nation. Germany would soon now would do a minor pushback to push them to a more reasonable border for itself, pushing them back to about here, to around Belgium, Switzerland, and like France, like a weird coalition state, before allowing them to have independence after that, and deciding to move eastwards to continue their expansion over into the east, expanding and formalizing their complete control over Eastern Europe. The light blue Swedish country would also expand up north into, around modern day Stockholm, I'm pretty sure. It would even start to expand into Norway, becoming stronger. The Italian country would then soon unite with this, Frankish country, forming around with their client state in the east, forming basically the borders of the Roman Empire. They're missing Egypt and a little bit in Anatolia, but they are pretty much at the Roman extent. Speaking of which, though, we'd see a freedom movement start to rise up. Around Greece, a new movement would rise up wanting freedom from the Italians. Breaking out, they'd split the country into two almost. They would be able to put it back under control pretty fast, able to keep the alliance together, but slowly they are breaking with the Italian country. Let's go over to our brown team who would adopt, who would officially start to expect who would officially start another massive expansion, this time into modern day Finland, expanding fast and rapidly, growing in size very fast into, modern day Finland, consolidating themselves over here in Finland as well. Over here, this pink Indian country would adopt the same faith as the Germans, before beginning pretty big, starting to expand further into India, well, modern-day India. Over here, this Chinese country would launch another massive expansion into modern-day China, expanding very rapidly, becoming a very powerful state very fast. Over here, this golden Caspian Sea-like nation would start to go down the Caspian coast, expanding and even reaching the blue team in the Caucasus Mountains, deciding to stop there as they consider going past it could cause them some issues. As they start to expand now into Russia further. This British country would expand start to use seafaring routes and discover Iceland, establishing a pretty decent settlement over there before deciding to arrive in Norway, establishing a Norwegian colony as well. The red team, though, the red team wants to invade and unite with the orange team, as it feels like if it attacks the Romans, it would lose heavily. So the orange team's really the only nation it can attack that it could feasibly beat. As we first see a group from the red team who doesn't want to go brutally fight like this flee down into Africa. Fleeing down south to the South African region, they formalize a very small but pretty decent little state down there. The brown team launches an expansion as well, continuing into control of Finland. As another new nation would formalize itself in Africa, which would be over here around, well, the Congo, a new nation would start to formalize, just more like a tribal group right now than anything. As another nation would appear over here, in Japan, like a sand greenish country would formalize in the Japanese islands plus Hokkaido. This gold country would continue to expand up north into, well, Russia, into what is modern day Russia, and start to expand into Kazakhstan and into the, well, Central Asia, expanding pretty fast as well, before reaching the modern borders of Iran. As the Italians would start to struggle to keep their empire together, they established a new state, like they did in the Greek nation, still loyal to the Italians, but not being still a part of the map and pledging loyalty to the imperial empire, but would have its own emperor to help rule the empire together. This would be a Frankish style nation. It would be a Frankish style nation that they had conquered, where they'd use the minor nobility still left over here to help put it under. As they soon, though, both the purple team wants expansion plus the Italians. The Italians want to go up north and start to subjugate Germania, while the purple team wants to attack the red team, but doesn't really have the right thing. So for now, the Italian Greens would sign a treaty to buy some land to help out their borders. Would pledge to help them fight if, say, the brown or red team attacks. They'd get land in exchange for that. As the red team now after months of preparation, would land on Cyprus and start their war. Troops would march slowly through the country, continuing to march pretty fast through the, well, Orange team, marching pretty slowly, before deciding to just beeline it straight to one of the major cities and capture it. One of the three most major cities in this region has just been invaded. But now the red team would shockingly get one minor ally in the war. The green team has been once this territory. Red wants it, but sees as their war is going pretty bad, they decide to cut him a deal for this as a territorial concession. And they launch it, quickly cutting off the Cyanide and even capturing the whole Cyanide Peninsula in their first real strike, but realizing they don't really need that. They just wanted the Cyanide more than anything. They'd signed a treaty with the Orange team to basically cement their new gains. The Orange team soon reaches out to the Blue team as well, as a new treaty is signed to help out everyone's borders, as the Blue team would give up this bit of land to them, as the Green team would even get their own chunk of it, getting this little bit of land for free. The Blue team would now fully consolidate itself around Iraq and Iran. The Orange team, who now only has to worry about one front, would manage to push back and capture their major city. As from the east, the Purple team's little alliance, you know what, I'm going to actually do something to kind of, well, make it a little easier to show the group of, well, the Italians. For using the coloration around the Italians to show what their empire would look like to the wider world. So this is what their empire would actually look like. As the Purple team, who has been wanting war with them, would attack, capturing the capital city of the Red team in their strike. The Orange team would soon rush in for itself and start to push back. The Red team had not prepared for this at all, as the Purple team would manage to fully consolidate the capital lands and would capture the straits, encircling Red forces. Soon both nations would decide on a border being this for the Purple team, and they'd also gain Bulgaria. But what happens to Romania? Well, it wants to break out, so they're going to let it. The Orange team manages to starts to continue its attack, lands and captures Cyprus, and even continues a brutal frontal assault on the Red team. The Red team now really only consists in Bulgaria and, well, Romania, well, modern day Romania. As they advance into Bulgaria, the Purple team manages to force this country declares independence, formalizes new borders, formalizes this as their borders, and is recognized by the Purple team. And just like that, the first country on this, well, map disappears into war. Now the Orange team, though, still wants more land and decides to finally enact on the treaty they had signed all the way back in around the second or first episode, gaining all the Caucasus and fully cementing themselves as kind of the Anatolian country. Even during it, deciding to adapt to adopting this as their coloration now as well, as this country up north would take their orange. So yes, this is now the faith of the Red team, but it's the Orange team. That's a little too light orange. Yeah, there we go. But going back to the purple team, they'd make a secret deal with the green team as well. They'd make a deal with the, well, green team down here to officially recognize their claims to the entirety of Egypt in exchange for them doing one thing: supporting them as they break free, as they officially leave. And this group officially collapses. Well, at least in the east. With the purple team leaving, the green team does declares war on them. That's where a new red team would also form itself around landing and establishing Madagascar as its a true red, not the same team, mind you, just the same color, would establish in Madagascar. This sand green team would help a group of travelers lead an expedition over here to, well, very close Burma. And, well, it would establish pretty fast, but would not grow to the same size as the other Asian countries right now. The green team's invasion would begin. They'd mainly focus on just securing the African region, securing Libya for themselves. Before a minor skirmish would take place over here, before a complete deadlock in borders. They'd launch an invasion of Crete that would secure around a little over half the island, but then the purple team would build a second fort, would build another capital city, and would push them completely out as well. They'd even land slight bits back in Libya before deciding, in exchange for the recognition of Libya under them, they'll have to recognize their independence. So just like that, the Roman team manages to expand slightly but loses, and soon followed but it also applies for France. So France breaks free, forming the Frankish kind of blue kingdom. So that's not, well, all for this episode. The this more British country who had fled from France, which is the original nobility of this kingdom, now over here, will now lay claim to the empire. Using a massive expansion, they launch an invasion of the Channel Islands and start to capture Paris fast, and start to cement themselves. And it seems pretty likely they could feasibly conquer the whole empire. But at this point, there's been such a change in between them, well, it doesn't work. The French are able to push them back, and as they decide to do, as they also build as another major city has formulated itself, they push them all the way out of France before deciding to make a deal with. They'll give up their claims to their throne in exchange for them recognizing their claims over Norway. And that's where as now they would officially stop recognizing themselves as a part of the French-style empire. And France would stop for their independence. Now realizing they really can only focus on Norway, Now realizing they can only really focus upon Norway, that's where they'd mainly focus. As a new leader, for the first time, would build a fort build a new capital city for them. And would then launch a small expansion into Norway, linking up with this Swedish state. Sweden would gain a new leader who would also want Norway, who would start to secure his own country first, so he would have a larger landmass to help conquer Norway. The brown Russian-like country also starts to finish its expansion into Finland, and now starts to expand around Norway and Swedish claims. As it also religion officially shifts, as they soon get the same religion as the British country. Before, though, over here in this, Japanese state, Hokkaido completely collapses in on itself. As well as here, Myanmar nearly loses half its people to a disaster. Italy just attempts to now formulate a plan to sustain itself in Africa and keep its empire around just Hispaniola and Italy, and starts to rapidly expand, but it quickly backfires. The Hispaniolan regions are tired of this and break free from the Romans. It's a one unified state for now. And I'm going to do one more country, which Japan will build a new major city. As this sand green India-like country would launch its first expansion in a long time. Would launch its own expansion into, India, plus a little bit into, as the blue team, which will be our final one, would launch a large expansion, expanding rapidly, finally reaching the cusps of its new claims into Persia, into, modern-day Iran, and would even capture this coastline, would start a large push into the east, formalizing itself as the kind of rival of the sand green Indian country by completely blocking their expansion westwards. And that will do it for this episode of What If Civilization Started Over.